Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode, or whatever you want to call it, with Samara and I. Today, we are going to be talking about credit cards, credit card evaluation, all that fun stuff. Either if credit cards are your friend or foe. We're going to learn that today. Can you explain what a credit card is, how it works, and how it differs from a debit card? And then also, what are some of its main features, like credit limits, interest rates, and payment cycles, and what people should be aware of?
Sure. So let's start from the basics. A credit card is effectively a personal line of credit that a bank assigns to an individual when you apply for it. They're going to set some sort of a limit, maybe give you $1,000, or it could be a $10,000, or even $100,000. That's how much you can utilize within the line, and you have to make payments on it on monthly basis. So you typically have a cycle that usually it's about 30 days, and then they accumulate your usage on that card, and then they send you a bill. Now, if you pay 100% of what you owe on there, then you're not going to owe any interest. But if you maintain some balance, then they're going to charge you some interest. So there's a credit limit. That's the amount that you can utilize up to. There is an interest rates. Typically, it's in the 20s. So it's like highway robbery. So you don't want to carry balance until you absolutely have to. The difference between a credit card and a debit card is that the credit card, like I said, it's a line of credit, where a debit card, when you use it, it pulls the money directly from your bank account. So the bank is not lending you any money. You're utilizing your own money.
So, how does a credit card help build or improve your credit score? And what are some habits that you should start doing in order to work with your credit score?
Yeah. So anytime you use some sort of a credit type of arrangement, whether it's a credit card or you apply for an auto loan or you apply for a mortgage for that matter, as long as you're exhibiting good habits, good financial habits, meaning you're making your payments on time, you're making the full payments that they're asking you for, not necessarily the full balance, but the full payment amount. As long as you do that, and you do that repeatedly, month after month after month, the longer you go, the better your credit history will become. The better your credit history is, the better your credit score will become, and then lenders will feel more at ease to offer you more credit in the future, and they will offer it to you at a lower interest rate, because then they will consider you a lesser of a risk. So the more you utilize it, for whether it's your credit card again or any type of loan, the more you exhibit a history, and hopefully it's a good history.
So, what are different types of credit card rewards programs, and how could people utilize these to their advantage?
So, if you know me, you know how I feel about the credit card business. I think it's a highway robbery business. I think it's a legalized loan sharking business, really, because the banks charge an enormous amount of interest if you carry a balance. Now, let's say you don't pay any kind of interest because you make your full payments every month. Then you wonder, how does the bank make money on you utilizing the card, especially if they're giving you some sort of rewards, whether it's money back or whether it's miles or whatever it is, based on the type of card you have. And that is because they charge the merchant a fee. So let's say hypothetically that XYZ bank issues a card to you, you use it, and some sort of a vendor, XYZ bank, is going to charge that vendor hypothetically 3% for accepting the payment. So that's how they make their money. Now, if you're carrying a balance and you're paying interest, they're making even more money. So if they turn around and pay you 1% back, that's only 1% off the 3% they collected from the merchant. And they're hoping that you're going to carry a balance at some point, and then that's when they're going to hit you with 20 plus interest rate on your balance. But there are a lot of different cards. Some of them give you money back. Some of them give you miles if they're airline cards, for example, or if they're hotel cards. All of those give you something back to lure you to utilize the card. And for me, I carry multiple cards and I use them quite a bit. I try to put as much as I can on the credit cards because I want those benefits, but I make sure to pay my amount in full, and I don't want to spend more than I can afford. That is a very, very important point to keep.
So, what are some common fees that are associated with credit cards, and how can people try to avoid or prevent dealing with these fees?
She's using the F word. Fees. Well, banks, like I said, this is a highway robbery business, and they're going to try to assess as many fees as they can. Let's start with the annual fee. Some credit cards come with no annual fee, but many of them do. So, unless you're really getting something special for that annual fee, I would not get a card that has an annual fee. But sometimes there are cards out there that maybe give you access to clubs at airports. They might cover your expenses to apply for TSA or something like that. They may double your points. And based on that, they may assess you somewhere between $200 to $500 annual fee. If you're a frequent traveler and you need access to the clubs, or if you need TSA or global entry or whatever it is, so if you're getting something that's worthwhile for you back for the fee, then in that case, I would endorse the annual fee. Otherwise, get a no annual fee card. Second would be late payment fee. Well, the late payment fee, the fee is really the least of your problems because that means you're late on your payment, and they already dinged your credit history. So you don't want to be late because you don't want to pay the fee, nor do you want to lose points from your credit score. Other fees could be if they're asking you to do balance transfers. If you're moving a balance from one card to another, they may charge you a fee up front. That could be as much as 3%. Again, highway robbery, that's a lot of money. So you want to try to be very careful in using the credit card. This is not an unlimited type. You just keep swiping. You got to always remember that you're only swiping on the card what you can afford to pay at the end of the month.
So you kind of touched on this earlier, but let's dive a little deeper in what an APR is and how it affects, when you carry a balance over time.
Yeah, we did talk about it earlier. And, credit cards are notorious for charging you a very, very ridiculous interest rate if you carry a balance, especially now in an environment today where rates are high. That interest rate could be somewhere between 25 and 30% even. So imagine it's 25%, and you make a purchase for $1,000, and 25% of $1,000, we're talking about $250 that is being added just in interest alone. So, is this something that you want to utilize, or maybe there's another way to use the money in your bank account that you're probably not earning that much interest on anyway, right? So, you got to be careful about that. Carrying a balance is not good because the cost is very, very prohibitive. APR stands for annual percentage rate. The banks that when they issue you the card, they have to notify you of what the rate is, and sometimes it's tiered, meaning if you carry a balance of between 0 and 10,000, then it would be this much. But then if you carry between 10,000 and 20,000, hypothetically, then it would be higher, and so on and so forth. So you want to be aware of what the cost is for that loan, because let me remind you, there is no free lunch. And with credit cards specifically, there's no free anything. Be aware of what you're facing when you're swiping your card.
So when carrying multiple credit cards, can you list some advantages, possibly like rewards, or disadvantages like increased debt?
Yeah, for sure. I carry multiple cards, and I said earlier that I utilize my credit cards quite a bit. I try to use my credit cards to get those rewards as much as possible. So that's why I utilize different cards because, for example, I have a hotel card. So anytime I utilize that hotel, I tend to stick with that chain. And as a result, I get a bunch of points for using that chain's credit card. I'm not going to promote which chain it is, but there's a bunch of them out there. So I maximize my rewards by using their card. If I'm using a certain airline to travel, then I might have an airline credit card. I have one for just an everyday usage where it just pays me a certain percentage on everyday spending. Sometimes I have a card that has a rolling quarterly categories where they define certain categories where you can increase your cash back on those. So I tend to keep track of maybe I have a total of 5 cards. I keep track of them and what are the different benefits, and I try to use them smartly. Now, some of the pitfalls when you have multiple cards is if you're spending 2,000 on each of these cards, guess what? 2,000 times 5, that's 10 grand. So you want to be careful about this. You can easily bump up the amount of debt that you carry if you're spreading it amongst multiple cards. So that is something to be wary of. Another thing is that you want to try to remember to make these payments, right? So if you have multiple cards and they come at different payments, one of the things that you may or may not know is that you can talk to the credit card and move the date your payment is due. You can change that date. So what I do is I try to make all my cards due around the same time, pretty close. So when I pay my credit cards, I go in and I make the payments on all of them at one time. This way, I'm not forgetting any cards or not saying I'll deal with this next week or 2 weeks from now type of deal.
So last thing, what are some factors that people should be considering when they're considering credit cards, like rewards, spending habits, fees, all of that great stuff?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a freak like me, I would use the credit card on absolutely everything I can, even my utilities. If they accept the credit card payments, I use the credit card. Really, for 2 reasons. Number one, I have a record of usage, right? So if I made a payment, I have a record that it was made, the payment was made. And second, it's recorded in there, so I can go in into online the credit card account activity and basically download all the activities. So that's a good thing. And then on top of it, they're going to give me rewards, right? So why not do it? So it's definitely a good thing to use the credit cards as long as you are making sure that you're not going crazy with maintaining balances on those cards. Now, to answer your question, which card makes the most sense? Really, it depends on your usage. So, if you're a frequent traveler, then definitely you want to ensure that you have an airline card, especially if you tend to use the same airline over and over. You'll probably want to make sure you have a hotel card. Let's say you're a business traveler and you always stay in a hotel. And let's say your job, for example, hypothetically, wants you to always stay with XYZ chain. Then I would go out and get that XYZ credit card. So now you're accumulating the points because you're having to stay with them anyway. And now you book your flight on one card, you book your hotel on another card. Now you've maximized both sides. If you don't travel frequently and you just want a general one, if you use Amazon, if you use whatever, you want to try to match the card to how your expenses are. So if your just expenses are regular expenses such as food, utilities, gasoline, that kind of stuff, then maybe you want like a basic card that pays you 1% or 1.5% on everything you spend, and you're done with it. You don't have to deal with anything else. So it all depends on your usage and what you spend money on.
So there are a lot of myths when it comes to credit cards. Can you address some of those myths and reveal the truth in them?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, the biggest one that is that carrying a balance is going to improve your credit score or your credit rating, and that's absolutely not true. What improves your credit rating is your good habits. So even if you never carry a balance, as long as you turn around and you make your payment on time, then you're already improving your credit score. The second is the utilization level of the card. So let's say the bank issues you a card, and that card you have a limit of $10,000 on it. If you go out and you spend 9 grand on that card, that's 90% utilization. That's not good because now the bank is going to start to get a little freaked out and say, hey, maybe he's going to like stick us with the balance and run, right? So you want to try to maintain your utilization under 30% if you can. So if it's a $10,000 line, don't use more than 3 grand. If you use more, let's say you had to put something on it and it's $5,000, great. Charge it to the card, turn around, go online and make an early payment on that card for 1,000 or two to bring down the utilization back down under 30%. So you have the ability to make payments at any time. You don't have to wait for the statement or for the due date. You can always pay early. The bank would love that. They're getting their money early and they're feeling better that you're a good risk. You always want to make informed decisions. Just because an advertisement sounds good or something they're trying to lure you with, hey, if you sign up for this card, we're going to give you 75,000 points or miles or whatever. Go back and say, is this something I need? Do I utilize this card? Is this the right card for me? It doesn't matter what they're going to pay you up front. Because one thing you don't want to do is keep getting lines and then terminating them. Meaning you get it, you capture that up front, and then you turn around and close it. If you do that once a year, it's okay. But if you do that multiple times, now that's going to affect your credit score negatively. So be smart about it. Utilize the bank's money. They are a legalized mafia. Remember that. So never give them interest. And just go to town and collect as many rewards as you can.
You heard it. Collect all the rewards that you can and use the money, outsmart them.
Yes.
So anyways, now you're at the end of the video. There's a lot of helpful tidbits. I'm sure it was a lot to capture. So go ahead and reverse to the beginning of the video, grab your notebook and your pen or pencil, and then take down notes because I feel like there are a lot of secrets in this video that many people do not know.
What she said.
Adios.
Bye-bye.